Clipper up. So here we are in a 1946 Aronca Champ. We did a video on a Chief. This is the tandem version of it. The Chief is side by side. So this is Mark from Skywagon University. Let's have a look around the old girl and then take it up for a run. One of the challenges to these little tandem tail draggers is entry and exit. This got a big door on it, and the way to get out, amongst other ways, is just step out like that. Here she is. So, when it was new in 46, that was right after the Second World War ended, this would have had a 65 horsepower Continental in it and would have done about 75 miles an hour, no electrical system, and hand propping it anyway, hand propping it only. And I called that on the Chief amusingly a Hemingway starter because it's farewell to arms. Well, this doesn't have that. So we'll have a bit of a look around at some of the things it does have and fly it. So cowling, very easy. A lot of planes you don't want to open the cowl and to look at it for the videos because it's 9,000 screws and they never go back in the same way. But on these, because they're a trainer plane and you're in and out a lot looking at them and checking on them before each person gets in, two little latches and it's open. So as I said, this was a 65 horsepower, 4-cylinder, little air-cooled or horizontally opposed like Continental. This one is a 90 horsepower, so it's 30 more horsepower, which makes a big difference in a small plane like this. And instead of doing like 70, it does about 90 miles an hour. It's also got an oil filter instead of a screen, an alternator to make electricity, which they didn't have at all, and a starter motor, so you don't have to cut your arms off when you want to start it. So it's actually very useful. Electrical system, a starter motor, all the modern conveniences, and 50 hours on the engine. 50. So this would be, I mean, a lot of the airline pilots and astronauts flying around in the USA and the world today learn to fly in a Champ. Everybody's got a memory of a Champ. The Citabria, remember I did a video on Citabria. Citabria is aerobatic, backwards. Aerobatic Citabria. Aronca is Aronca, not Naruka. It's not. It doesn't mean anything backwards. But Citabria is aerobatic backwards, and the Citabria came from this. So the Champ is like the sort of first. This is like the Cessna 150 of the 40s. Everybody learned to fly in a Champ. No nose wheel. So you're learning to fly in a tail dragger with heel brakes. And there is actually a model of Champ, Chief maybe I think it is, nose wheel with a tail in the air. Nose wheel on the ground. Very strange looking plane, but probably just because not everybody wanted to fly a tail dragger. Okay, the gear is like an A-frame strut with an oleo, so it's like a shock absorber to allow for students' abuse. A double metal strut that comes out and picks up the main spar and the trailing edge spar. Fabric, wooden spar. This one's had new wooden spars put in, but they're still wood. Some of the Decathlons and Citabrias, they can have a metal spar put in. This has a wooden spar. The last spar lasted like 65 years, so why not do it again? That's pretty good. All control surfaces are fabric. The whole plane's fabric except the cowling. Fuel capacity. If we come around here, you can see 2 gas caps on top of the wings. Weird. Because Champs don't have gas caps on their wings. They normally have a 13-gallon header tank. But this plane has got 5 on the left and 6 on the right. And when we go inside, we'll show you how that feeds into the main tank. So tandem seats, side by side, stick, heel brakes. It's got the bigger tail. Originally this would have had a small tail on it, but because of the 90 horsepower engine, it's got the bigger rudder on it. A handle here for ground handling. Either I'm very, very strong and made that look easy, or that's how you can lift it, which you can, for maneuvering it around and making it level. Lights, because it's got an electrical system. flying wires for supporting horizontal stabilizer, metal trim tab, steerable tail wheel, very steerable. It has heel brakes, which I find a bit of a pain in the arse because you've got to do the 5-footed shuffle, but the tail wheel is so steerable that you barely need the brakes until you're actually going to come to a stop. So here we are inside it. The door can hinge here and here and open like this, very Satabra-y. They can have a split door that opens to here, and they can have this door. Well, this might be a custom door, I'm not sure. It's got a shock stradolio, it's got an air vent, a very good handle. Look at this. Perfect. And you can fly with it open because you're only doing 85 miles an hour. Okay, so inside, lots of little things scattered around. So the fuel on off is here. This lever moves up to off, and to turn it on you put it down and lock it in position with that little pin. Carb heat next to it, and behind hit mags. Left, right, but off, left, right, both. Second throttle here for the back person. Push to torque up on here. Same in the front. Not on the stick. You could have it on the stick, but that's just as handy because you're right next to the throttle. And then inside up here, trim. So it's very small movement. In fact, you barely need it. I mean, when I'm flying it, I'm probably hardly going to touch it. I'll be like this. But that's moving the trim tab. And then this is the mags, master, the radios, on-off switches, and the intercom, and the plug-in for the headset. So it's all up here behind you, probably more accessible from there. You solo it from the front, unlike a J3 Cub, you'd solo from the back. This was built in competition with the J3 Cub in the 40s, and it was better than it. And J3 Cub owners are like, no it isn't, but it is. Inside the front, headset there, very simple layout. You got airspeed, altimeter, oil pressure, oil temperature, 12 volt supply from maybe a GPS, artificial horizon, RPM, amps, mixture, generator, circuit breaker, and a push to start. So you turn on the mags up there, press that, catch it on the throttle, and it's running. And the fuel gauge is here. And the way that works is it's a float inside the tank. The tank's under here is 13 gallons. There's a float in the tank that gives you a visual reading on the screen, and it's a Model A Ford fuel gauge. And I've got a Model A Ford, and it's exactly the same. Why reinvent the wheel? It's the same fuel gauge as a Model A Ford. So the fuel gauge is there, 13 here, and these taps, when you turn these taps, you're letting the fuel drain from the wing tanks into that tank. So there's 5 and 6. 5 and 6 is 11, that holds 13. If you let it drain, it will run out and overflow, so you only do one at a time to make sure you never overfill it. Burn down the 13 to half full, so there's only like 5 or 6 left in it. Then there's room for the 5 or 6 in the wings. If you do both, it could overfill that tank, and then you're just wasting fuel. So in flight, one at a time, so you have 13, 5 and 6, a very long range, and this thing will burn about 6 an hour, so if you can stay in it for 5 or 6 hours, it'll do it. So things are scattered around a bit inside, but when you get to know it, it's actually pretty good. And this visor, somebody's invented this and put it on, this clips to these tubes here, and if you unclip it and push it away, it goes up, so it gives you a tinted top half to the windshield. So pretty nice, well-appointed little plane. So enough talk, let's fly it. This is how you get into them, because it's solo. If it was the back, solo from the back, it'd be easier to get in, but this is how you get in. Just step up here, put your left leg in, right leg in, and sit. Pretty comfortable. Hello, hello. One ear. But it's there, the microphone is in, so that's good. So just like a lot of other tail draggers, when you're taxiing, it's differential steering by just pressing the rudder pedals. You get prop wash over the rudder, and you also get steering on the actual tail wheel itself. You don't need to add brake, but if you need to do a deceleration suddenly or turn more than the rudder will do, you add a bit of brake on that side or both. So the run up, set the RPM, stick back, bags down here, very convenient, left, right, both. Oil pressure, idle. Door. Window. Push to talk. Placerville, Champ 84868, departing 23, local flight Placerville. Does not use much runway. Look at it. We're doing 60. I need a bit of trim. Look how that push to torque is perfect. My hands on the throttle and my fingers on the push to torque. Placerville, Champ 868, left crosswind 23, Placerville. So if you just want to fly around and have fun and go to a local burger place on an airport, or go to a fly-in and not cross the Sierras, just be in the air, this would be ideal. 2 people, a little bit of gas. You can do low and slow, you can open windows, open doors. Placerville, Champ 868, left base 23, Placerville, full stop. No flaps, so if you need to descend faster than just flying downhill, you would slip. All clear on final. Placerville, Champ 868, final 23 Placerville, full stop. So it took off at about 40, so I'll be on final at like 60, 50, near the ground, 40. Oh, there's a little bit of wind over this end of this runway because of the hill. I'm going to go and land a bit further in because I don't need 4,000 feet for this plane. Get under control, there we are. A little bit of a burble coming up the bridge there. But just like a horse. Don't let it think it's in charge. So, we survived another tailwheel landing. This is Mark from Skywagon University. If you liked it, we do these videos on different planes, a little brief overview of each one and a flight. And then under here you can subscribe and there's a notifications bell. So thanks very much for watching.